So, dear students, once again we continue with this time the third part of the short story B. Wordsworth by V.S. Naipaul. On your screen, you can see once again the book cover and the photograph of V.S. Naipaul, Vidyadhar Suraj Prasad Naipaul. And we are going to continue from where we had left off in our previous class. So, I am scrolling to that particular portion of the text. All of you, please take out your textbooks and please get ready for your short story class. So here we are. We were trying to read towards the end of page 120, where B. Wordsworth was telling the narrator the indirect story of his life. He was not relating directly that it was he who fell in love and married this girl who was a girl poet, just like he was a boy poet. But then he goes on to say that she loved grass and flowers and trees. They lived happily in a single room. It is the same single room as I told you in the previous video, where the narrator is now with B. Wordsworth. And then one day the girl says that she is expecting a child, and that child is never born. She dies at the time of childbirth or something similar. So that is where we had stopped towards the end of page 120, and we continue from the last line, the last couple of words. And the girl's husband was very sad. So when she died, what happened? The girl's husband became very sad, and he said he would never touch a thing in the girl's garden. And so the garden remained and grew high and wild. So that is what happened. So that explains why B. Wordsworth never really tends to his garden, which is overgrown with weeds. And that is something which surprises the narrator. He has asked him why he does not do the weeding and cleaning of his garden, but he tells him this story, and this shows the reason why he does not tend to his garden. So he would never touch a thing in the girl's garden, and so the garden remained and grew high and wild. I looked at B. Wordsworth, and as he told me this lovely story, he seemed to grow older. How is it possible that while telling this lovely story, he seems to grow older? Actually, there is this painful expression coming onto his face while he relates the story of his life. And as he relates this story, and as this painful expression comes over his face, he looks much older than he really was. So I understood his story. Now the narrator says that he could understand the story of this man. We went for long walks together. We went to the botanical gardens and the rock gardens. These are all the important, you can say, places in Port of Spain, which people in their leisure or during the holidays they visit. So both the narrator and B. Wordsworth visited these places. We climbed Chancellor Hill in the late afternoon and watched the darkness fall on Port of Spain, and watched the lights go on in the city and on the ships in the harbor. So you see, as I told you, it is West Indies and it's surrounded by the sea, the Atlantic Ocean. So it is basically, as the name of the city suggests, Port of Spain. Now it is very far from Spain, but once upon a time the Spaniards from Spain, from Europe, had crossed the Atlantic just like the other Europeans and had landed up in what is now America. And it all started with Christopher Columbus making his first voyage by sea in the year 1492. So in his first attempt, he reached what is now known as the Caribbean islands or West Indies. And in his second attempt, he reached mainland America. Another explorer, Amerigo Vespucci, his name was Amerigo Vespucci. I don't know if you have read about him in history or in geography. He was the person from whom the name America was derived. Amerigo Vespucci. Remember this name? He was the one who landed in mainland America, and eventually America derived its name from his name. So, anyway, Port of Spain is where you have the harbor, and so these two go to the harbor area and they watch the lights go on in the city and also in the ships which are standing in the harbor. He did everything as though he were doing it for the first time in his life. He did everything as though he were doing some church rite. So you see, the two sentences are almost identical in the way the things are expressed here. This man, the narrator talks about this man, that he did everything as though he were doing some church rite. That means with utmost care and attention. So this was his tendency. Whenever he did something, he did it with utmost care and with a kind of seriousness which one would show when one was probably doing some kind of religious ritual. So in case of Christians, it is the church service. So that is how he did it. He would say to me, now how about having some ice cream? So even in having ice cream also, there was some kind of seriousness. How about having some ice cream? And when I said yes, he would grow very serious and say, now which cafe shall we patronize? Patronize means visit. As patrons, patrons are the ones who are regular customers, ones who regularly go to a particular cafe, cafeteria, or a restaurant, or a shop, or a particular place. So which cafe shall we patronize? Cafe refers to a restaurant, as though it were a very important thing. Now you want to have ice cream, you may buy and have ice cream even in the street. And it is not necessary always that you have to go to a cafe to have the ice cream. But this man, he did everything just like a church rite, and that's why he said, let's think, as though it were a very important thing. He would think for some time about it and finally say, I think I will go and negotiate the purchase with that shop. The world became a most exciting place. So to be in company of this man was something completely different from the life that this boy was living with his mother, with his family. Because here, this man never really shouted at him, never lost his temper, never misbehaved with him, and was always very friendly with him, though the age gap was tremendous. The man was, of course, middle-aged, and this narrator was merely a boy, but then they became so good friends. So the world became a most exciting place indicates the happiness that this boy had in the company of B. Wordsworth. One day, when I was in his yard, he said to me, I have a great secret which I am now going to tell you. So, he has always many secrets. So, this time also he says, I have a great secret and I am going to tell it to you. I said, it really secret? Now, this language, as you know, in West Indies, they speak like this. So, is it really secret? That means, is it really a secret? At the moment, yes. Who says this? B. Wordsworth says this. At the moment, yes. I looked at him and he looked at me. He said, this is just between you and me. Remember, I am writing a poem. So just keep this secret between you and me. Don't forget it. Remember it. The secret is that I am writing a poem. Well, he is a poet. So he'll obviously be writing poems. Earlier also he tried to sell him a poem, his mother in fact, and then got a shout from her. So what is so secret about this? Nothing. But then he tried to make it sound as though it were to be a secret. So the narrator obviously was disappointed. Oh, I was disappointed. So his answer was, oh. That means there's nothing new in that. I mean, you have always talked about being a poet, and you have even tried to sell me a poem, in fact my mother a poem, and now you are saying that you are writing another poem. So what is so secret, so big a secret about that? So there's hardly anything. So he said, but this is a different sort of poem. This is not like an ordinary poem which you read in any book or any journal. This is something different. It's a poem with a difference. This is the greatest poem in the world. So what does he say? It is the greatest poem in the world. Now obviously, when B. Wordsworth, somebody whose name has Wordsworth in it, is writing a poem, it is supposed to be a great poem. We'll take it from the humorous point of view. So that is what he means to say, that it is the greatest poem in the world. Actually, this man, he had a very high opinion about himself. He used to think of himself as someone very great, but for that he was not over proud or very ambitious, or did not seem to have any attitude. But then he said that this is going to be the greatest poem in the world. I whistled in surprise. So when you are surprised, automatically you may end up whistling. So that's what the narrator does. Now we have finished with page 121. We are moving on to page 122. All of you please follow the text, page 122 in your textbook. He said, I have been working on it for more than 5 years now. I have been working on this poem for more than 5 years. I will finish it in about 22 years from now. You may laugh as much as you want to laugh. This man is completely crazy. Well, that's what we should think of him, but not the narrator and not B. Wordsworth himself. He's serious about it. He said, I've been working on it for more than 5 years and I will finish it in about 22 years from now. That must be a massive poem. Much thicker in volume than the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, maybe. Let's hope so. That is, if I keep on writing at the present rate. So what is the present rate at which he writes? So the boy, obviously, just like we are thinking, he also thinks that way. You does write a lot then? That's the boy's question. That means you write a lot. He said, not anymore. I just write 1 line a month. See the rate. 1 line a month. But I make sure it is a good line. I make sure that the line which I write is really, really good. But I write only 1 line a month. I asked, what was last month's good line? He looked up at the sky and said, the past is deep. That is last month's line. In 1 month, he has written only 4 words. The past is deep. No doubt, the line is poetic. And so the boy appreciates. I said, it is a beautiful line. B. Wordsworth said, I hope to distill the experiences of a whole month into that single line of poetry. My whole month's experience to be distilled and put into that line. So, in 22 years, I shall have written a poem that will sing to all humanity. That means it's going to be a poem for entire mankind. For all humanity, entire mankind. I was filled with wonder. See, he's talking all nonsense, but he's speaking it out in such a way. That's what B. Wordsworth's speciality is. And that's what impresses the narrator. That the narrator is filled with wonder. He says, or rather he expresses that he was filled with wonder. Our walks continued. We walked along the sea wall at Dockside one day. What is sea wall? Suppose you have big breakers or big waves coming in, especially in low-lying sea beaches, which are very often flooded by seawater, especially when there is a tide or if there is a tsunami. What do the countries do? They build a wall along the shore so that the seawater, if the sea level rises, it does not flood the area adjoining the sea beach. So we walked along the sea wall at the dockside one day, and I said, Mr. Wordsworth, if I drop this pin in the water, you think it will float? A physics experiment. Boy is asking, if I drop this pin in water, will it float? You have often been asked this question in physics, especially in class 7 or 6 or 7 or 8, that a pin or a nail made of iron sinks, but a ship made of iron floats. Why does it happen? So this boy is saying, if I put this pin in this water, do you think it will float? He said, see his reply, very interesting reply. He said, this is a strange world. Drop your pin and let us see what will happen. The pin sank. Did you expect anything else to happen to the pin? Obviously not. He said, this is a strange world where anything is possible. I also agree with him, don't you? This world has many anomalies. This world has many odd happenings, many strange occurrences, incidents, events. Sometimes even science cannot describe or explain. But this was not supposed to be something like that. Anyway, his way of putting things is really very interesting. He says, this is a strange world. Drop your pin and let us see what will happen. And the inevitable happens. The pin sinks. The pin sank. I said, how is the poem this month? So what is the progress of the poem? The boy wants to know. But he never told me any other line. He merely said, oh, it comes, it comes. Poem is something which you cannot force out of yourself. It will come automatically. Or we would sit on the sea wall and watch the liners. What are liners? Ocean liners. Huge ships that carry passengers and goods across the Atlantic from one country to another. So we would sit on the sea wall, just on top of the wall. On one side you have the beach, on the other side you have the water, but shallow water, and the waves keep on coming and breaking against the wall down below. Your feet dangling, you are sitting on the wall, your legs are hanging down below, and just under your legs you can sometimes feel the spray of seawater as the waves come and crash on the wall. And we would watch the liners or the ships coming in to the harbor. But of the greatest poem in the world, I heard no more. The secret which he said he should not disclose to anyone, the greatest poem that he was writing, about that, B. Wordsworth did not talk anymore. I felt he was growing older. So once again the boy has this feeling, he feels that B. Wordsworth is growing older. And because he is growing older, maybe he has lost his interest in writing the poem that he said he was writing. The greatest poem that has ever been written and has ever been dedicated to humanity. So that poem, he never mentioned it again. How you does live, Mr. Wordsworth? So the boy is inquisitive. He wonders how Wordsworth manages to live. I asked him one day. He said, you mean how I get money? So are you asking me about how I earn my living, that is how I get money to live? So this is where we stop for the day. We have come to the end of page 122. So we can see from whatever we have read so far that B. Wordsworth is really a man with a difference. His way of thinking, his way of putting things, even ordinary things are, dealt by him in a manner which is not very common or normal. So that is what makes him very special. So if at all you get a question on this particular short story, the most probable question would be the character sketch of B. Wordsworth, and you may also get questions based on the theme of the story, the narrator's character, the narrator's relationships with his mother and with B. Wordsworth. So such analysis or analytical questions can also be set from this short story. So that's all for today. I hope you have understood, and we will continue once again in the last video. This is the third one we will make. I will be making one more video and will be finishing up with this short story in our next English literature class. Until then, thank you very much.